maintain a relationship than to go a new one with a new rainmaker.
Yes.
No further questions at this time.
All right, can you reiterate?
Yes, Your Honor. Right before Danny Dawson left the bar, did he seem drunk to you?
No.
Thank you, that's it.
I have a redirect question. Mention was made on cross-examination about the tips Danny Dawson gave you. Would you commit perjury in order to keep getting the big tips? No further questions.
Any re?
No, Your Honor.
Any more comments? Oh, wait, comments. This came up in this witness, but I noticed that the trial, we got to get the date down right. You guys know the case better than I do. They went out on the 23rd, right? And he didn't.
Fourth.
Wait, I thought they went out on the 23rd and then midnight passed.
24.
Okay, all right.
I think there's mistakes in the affidavit, like number-wise on some of them, like
Okay,
16.
we just have to be careful because we've heard a couple of different dates as far as when he died. I've heard that he died on, or she died on the 24th and the 25th, so we just got to get it all consistent. Don't stop him, Danny. He is always the defendant, or that scumbag, or whatever.
That's right.
Not never, Danny. Yeah. Now that being said, when you are on the other side, he is never the defendant. He's always Danny. Okay. Is the $1,000 a year statement in your affidavit?
I do believe honestly it's
I think
2,000.
2,000 for 2 years.
But it is.
Oh,
So that averages out to
But
1,000
it
a
is
year.
in there, yes.
Okay. Let's see. On the issues with the field sobriety test that was given before, during the softball game, if you will make it clear that she's not going to testify that any results were given, because I had forgotten that until the next question came out. But if she's not going to testify to any results, if she's just going to make a statement that, after I watched it, to me, it didn't look like he did good. That clears up a lot of issues. So if you get into an objection argument, you can say, Your Honor, as an offer of proof, we expect that she's not going to testify the officer gave any results. She's just going to give her lay opinion about her observations. Coach Mays?
Done? Oh. Nina, speak up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, a lot. Not a little, a lot.
You have the tendency to mumble a little bit, swing in the chair a little bit back and forth, things like that. Try to stay still if you can and speak up just a little bit. We've got to kind of establish a character. I think we have to establish a character for Jordan James. I'm not sure what that character might be. Probably James would be a better person to ask, or Katie would be the better person to ask on this particular witness. I whispered to Brady, Grady, that it's improper character evidence. I said, are we going to object to improper character evidence? I'll object to the coordination. I wanted to do an objection to the turn over the keys before and all that, but you had already worked out apparently the response to that.
Yes.
It was a good response.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure they knew the response. I think that would get around the issue. But you got to be careful that, even though they're giving that knowledge response, you got to be careful they don't use the fact that he's turned over his keys and he's being responsible in the past, which is a character trait, so he's responsible now. If they ever argue that, you're not using it for knowledge anymore, you're using it for conformity. So you got to be careful that they don't use it for an improper purpose, other than the one that you've stated. Coordination, I'm not sure that's a character trait. I'm not entirely sure that actually falls under 404. But I could be wrong on that. I'm not positive. It's something you can argue. It's something you can argue. On cross-examination, I don't know, you want to bring up the fact that you always turn the keys over. And I know, Rachel, you weren't trying to elicit that, but try, if she gives an evasive response, repeat the question. Just maintain control and say, thank you. My question was, and just repeat it until she answers your question. You kind of have a tendency to sway the other way, kind of back and forth when you're crossing. You do this number, I think a little bit. I think sometimes you fig leaf, so be careful of that. Don't ask her to tell you about anything. I think she can eat up your clock. I don't think those are necessarily bad questions that you ask her to, like open-ended questions that she could really ram down your throat. But I think that she could eat up your clock and kind of mess with you a little bit if you ask her an open-ended question. I just tell her what. Now, a rainmaker is someone who makes you a lot of money. Isn't that true? Who leaves you big tips. True? That's all I really have for now. I've got some more detailed stuff in my.
And there were times in your cross you were this close to her.
My bubble.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of judges, especially federal court judges, where it's all prim and proper and stuff, they will eat you alive. You give the witness space. Plus, if you separate a little bit, it kind of makes you the star. If you ever have a witness, I don't know if you noticed that she was speaking soft, but if you have a witness who's speaking soft, if you'll back up, it makes her naturally talk louder to talk to you, which in effect, helps out.
You got anything, Corey?
Couple things, not much. Let's see. I thought I had something. I think everything I've got here for the direct has been said. Yeah, we can work on the character evidence objection. I think you can, like, the thing is with a criminal case, there's certain ways that you can offer character if you are the defense, but you can't offer them through specific acts. That's something that's for another day. We'll talk about that. But there's a way to get it in on both sides, I think. Let me see. On direct, Sean, then you watched the leading questions. You were kind of, you almost started on a trend of saying that it'd be safe to say that you are around people who are intoxicated and something like that. You asked a couple of them like that, and then Rachel objected to leading. It was a little untimely, but you were about done with the leading questions by then.
Yeah, I was going to actually make that comment. There were a couple that she did say, exactly like he said, that were leading.
Yeah.
But then she got into was he stumbling? And so.
Yeah, I don't think that's leading personally, but the questions before that definitely were. And so I think that's what you were trying to object to. That's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah.
I think if you reword it as, was he or was he not stumbling, I don't think you got any problems. Because it clearly is not suggesting an answer. You're giving her both answers. He either was or he wasn't.
But it does kind of sound awkward to say, so I would stick with what you've got.
Unless I object.
But if a judge rules that you are leading, you'll even score double bonus for being able to very quickly recover and still get the information in by offering those questions. So if just was he or was he not wearing a blue shirt?
And then you made the other side of the
In fact, in the past, not our teams, but teams I've had have intentionally tried to get evidence in that we knew would be objected to, so that we could show the judge we knew another way around it to earn those bonus points for thinking on our feet, even though it was totally planned out. All right.
Well,
anything from the witness other than speak up a little bit? And you're nervous. It's your first time. I understand.
That's basically it. We'll get ways to vamp this character up. I like the laid-back bartender-like attitude, but Katie would probably actually be an excellent coach to help you develop some of that, which we can do. One more thing on the direct, actually, I don't think it was mentioned. The question, it was in the very beginning. It was right after, like, do you know the defendant or do you know Danny Dawson? The question was, have you ever seen Danny Dawson leave the bar intoxicated? It kind of sounded like it was out of place because it just kind of came, wham, right there. So maybe there's a way we can develop that a little more and put it in place. Just make a note of that, and we'll talk about it in the dyad, or someone will. And then we talked about the cross yet. Have you guys hit the cross? I don't think I need to say anything else with that. Actually, one or two things. Rachel, when you were arguing the 803.3 argument, you were kind of looking at Chandani when you were doing it. Make sure that every time you argue on objection, you're looking at the judge and you're conducting all of the conversation, even when it's to the other side, you're doing it all through the judge. It's like, may I ask whether opposing counsel wants to do this? It sounds so weird, but it's one of those courtroom things that is only normal in a courtroom and nowhere else in human existence. And let me see. Oh, and one other thing, this kind of went on what I think Nathan was saying. When you hear the witness start to run away from your question a little bit, she was doing that a couple times, because the witnesses are always going to do that in mock trial, because that's what they're scored on. They'll try to explain an answer away till they're going outside the bounds of your question. One way I like, you got to use it kind of carefully. When they start to do that, you can bring it back with saying something like, well, Miss James, my question wasn't about what the defendant, what he normally does. My question was about this. So that shows the judge that you're listening to what the witness is saying, and it gets the witness back on track with your question. I don't know what the specific instance I would have done it in, but you can use that, as a way to do that. And that's all I got for all of it.
Does the defense have any other witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, the defense calls Sam Lyons.
Mr. Lyons?
Please introduce yourself to the court.
My name is Sam Lyons.
Mr. Lyons, what do you do for a living?
Well, I'm a cab driver for the AAA Cab Company right here in Midland City, Midlands.
How long have you been at Cab?
I'd say for about 4 years. I've been trying to go back to college in the process.
Are you familiar with Chucky's Bar in Midland?
Absolutely. I frequent that establishment a lot, to pick up customers.
Do you go there often?
Absolutely.
I'd like to turn your attention to today's case. How did you become involved?
Well, on the night of September 24th, I was at Chuggy Sports Bar.
About what time did you arrive?
I got there around 4:30 p.m. Decided to have a burger and a cup of coffee. And that was way before there was anybody there too drunk to go home.
Did you recognize anybody when you got there?
Yes, I met Mr. Danny Dawson. Spoke to him, of course.
And after you talked to him, what happened?
Well, talked to him. He saw that he had a drink or two, and I went back to my town.
Now, how do you know Danny Dawson?
Danny, he's one of the more responsible falling down drunks at the establishment. I like to. He's a very good friend of mine, and we talk on occasion when we're at that bar.
And you said you left the bar. Did you ever return to Chuggy's?
Yes, around 7 p.m. I returned back. I heard that there was a very popular band playing.
And did you see Danny at that time?
Yes, he had snagged a table relatively close to the stage, and he was with 2 friends.
Did you recognize those 2 friends?
Yes, one was Taylor Hobson.
And how do you know Taylor Hobson?
Taylor, I like to think of Taylor as a cabbie's perfect wingman. She insists that no one ever drives home impaired. And I do remember on one occasion, the bartender, Jordan James, had served me a drink. And Taylor insisted that I not be allowed to drive home.
Your Honor, if I may proper and offer proof, the witness is going to testify that Taylor Hobson insisted that Sam Lyons actually not drive after having a drink. And this goes to our case in that Taylor Hobson is a person who does not like drinking and driving because it's awful. And the fact that she actually got into the car with Danny Dawson goes to show that she might have not thought he was as well.
So what issue is this probative on?
Excuse me?
So what specific issue is this probative on? Is this issue?
How intoxicated Danny Dawson was that night.
Is Taylor Hobson a witness today?
Yes, she was.
Okay. Is the credibility of a witness always an issue?
Yes, she was.
Okay, so this is something the jury can consider when considering Taylor Hobson's credibility?
Yes, she was.
Okay.
Your Honor, this testimony is not probative of Taylor Hobson's credibility, as it's a prior instance long before the night of September 24th, they can't connect any dots between this instance and the night of September 24th. The only thing that would be probative at this point is issue of this witness's credibility.
Your Honor, it still goes to the fact that Taylor Hobson is a person that got in the car with Danny Dawson, and a person who, the witness will testify, does not, tries to discourage drinking and driving. And therefore, she did not stop Danny Dawson from driving that night and also actually got into the car with him. This shows that, to prove our case, that Danny Dawson was not severely intoxicated.
Your Honor, if I may, then this would be a specific instance of conduct going to show action and conformity.
You're not, I think what the defense is trying to do is not show that Danny wasn't drunk with this statement. What I would imagine you're trying to do is show that Taylor Hobson is somebody who, even after a guy had one drink, jumped up and down and raised hell and said, no, you can't drive. It goes to show the way Taylor Hobson reacts to people that have been drinking and driving, and you're also going to, in close, argue about the way Taylor Hobson acted when Danny had been drinking and was possibly going to drive. These are all facts for the jury to consider when it comes to Taylor Hobson's credibility. Definitely comes in.
I was going to say, however, Your Honor, this is a cab driver. There are different legal standards as to the limit in which they can drive.
We're just interested in what Taylor Hobson thinks. So, overall.
Yes, sir.
I'll ask the question again, how do you know Taylor Hobson?
As I had said, she's very nitpicky about people driving under the influence. And as I had stated earlier, she insisted that I not drive after being served a drink. Funny thing was that the drink that Jordan served me was a non-alcoholic brew.
Now, Mr. Lyons, what happened after you had saw Danny Dawson with his two friends?
Well, they were, of course, near the stage. I talked to Danny for a few minutes, and after that, I went back to my cab to wait on the customers.
Did you ever go back into Chucky's that night?
Yes, around 11 p.m. I went back to see if, there was a popular show playing, and I figured there would be a lot of people there. The house was packed. I'd pick up some customers.
And did you see Danny Dawson at that time as well?
Yes, I did.
And what happened?
We talked. I was on my way back to the restroom, and talked to him, and we exchanged conversation, and we left. And I left.
Did you see Danny actually leave Chucky's that night?
It was around 12:40 p.m. or 12:40 a.m. Excuse me. 12:40 a.m. He exited the bar with his two friends earlier, the same two that were sitting with him near the stage. And I talked to him, and I said, Danny, are you ready to go? Assuming that he needed a ride back.
And now, when you talked to Danny, was he slurring his words? Like,
No, not at all.
did you actually notice him maybe stumbling a little?
Not one bit at all.
From what you saw, did you believe that Danny Dawson was intoxicated?
In my opinion, no. Earlier that night, his level of intoxication, he kind of slurred his words, but when he came to my cab that evening, the sentences he put together were very well structured. He wasn't stumbling, and I would not have let him drive home if I knew that he was intoxicated.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further at this time.
Brian?
Challenge.
Challenge accepted.
All right. Any cross-examination for this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Have you seen?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons, you said that you arrived at Chevy Sports Bar at 4:30, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, you said at 4:30, it was way before anybody was too drunk to drive.
Of course.
So there was nobody there that was too drunk to drive. That's what you told us earlier.
Of course, yes.
That's not true, is it?
What do you mean by that?
Well, Danny Dawson was there, correct?
Danny Dawson
At
was.
4:30, Danny Dawson was already slurring his words, correct?
He had one or two drinks placed in front of him.
Yes or no, was the defendant slurring his words at 4:30 p.m.?
What I can tell, no.
Is that your testimony today, that he was not slurring his speech at 4:30
At
p.m.?
4:30 p.m., no.
Do you remember preparing a signed and sworn statement for today's trial?
Yes, please.
Would you recognize a copy if I showed it to
Yes,
you?
you would.
Your Honor, I'm showing opposing counsel the defendant's signed and sworn statement.
Your Honor, I'm asking opposing counsel what lines of belief.
document in its entirety. May I approach the witness? Mr. Lyons, this is your signed and sworn statement, correct?
Yes, it is.
In this document, you swore to tell the truth?
Yes.
And you did in fact tell the truth.
Yes, sir.
That's your signature on the back?
Yes, sir.
You were told to update this document with any relevant and pertinent information prior to today's trial, including today.
Correct.
True? And you did in fact update this document.
Yes.
If you will, please, turn to lines 34 through 39. I stayed and chatted with Danny for a few more minutes. Danny definitely seemed buzzed. So when I left, I told Danny, you know where to find me, right? Line 37. I thought Danny was joking that Danny was planning to be the designated driver since Danny's speech was already slurred. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, sir.
So Danny was in fact slurring his speech at 4:30 p.m.
Mildly,
And you would say that he was in fact buzzed.
from what I observed, yes.
And that concerns you because he told you he was going to be the designated driver that night.
Yes, but you have to take into consideration Danny's very joking manner.
But he did make that statement, did he not?
Of course, but you have to take into consideration his joking personality.
So you told him where to find you later that night in case he needed a ride.
Yes, of course, he tips very well.
Now, you gave it time to wait and see if Danny sobered up, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you waited and came back at the bar around 11 p.m., true?
Well, I came back around 7 p.m. initially.
Initially, you stayed at the bar until a little after 11 p.m., correct?
Correct.
Now, I want to change gears. We're going to talk about the wreck that occurred on the night of September 25th, actually that early morning. You read about the wreck in the paper, correct?
Of course, it was tragic.
Now, you read